So I'm reading Seth Godin's book, Tribes. That's my business study of late, and wanted to share what I learned because this is how I learn and actually reinforce it. So one of the things I was just learning is that it's the heretics that actually lead, that create change, create the difference. Now, heretics are these crazy people and organizations that dare to reject the status quo, to think outside of what everybody else thinks, to break the group think. There's a lot of risk and danger in that because the group doesn't like that. It shakes up their worldview. It makes things difficult for them. It makes everybody else have to change. It's uncomfortable. And so heretics are usually burned at the stake, so to speak, but if heretics can act decisively in spite of fear, because it's scary to be a heretic, that's why people don't do it. One thing it points out in the book is the Peter Principle, which I'm familiar with from other books, and the Peter Principle is basically that in companies or organizations or structures, people generally rise to the highest level of their incompetence. What that means is you keep getting promoted as long as you're doing a good job, but as soon as eventually you get to a position that's beyond your capability or your capacity to deal with or handle. And what he points out in his take on it is that it's usually people get promoted to their level where fear takes over, to their highest level of fear. And so when fear limits their ability to stretch beyond their current capacity, they no longer progress. So the difference between somebody that can continually expand and grow, a heretic, somebody that can shake up the status quo, that can change the world, is simply that they are able to create a different story regarding fear. They'll still feel afraid. I've done a lot of things lately that felt really scary, but I've noticed when you have a holy cause, when you have a purpose, when you want to take care of your family, you want to expand and have a greater life for yourself and for your wife and for your kids, that you start doing things in spite of the fear, because what you want is greater. I've also noticed that when you actually step into the void, when you take that risk, when you do the scary thing that you know you should do, that it's never really as bad as you thought. It feels pretty awful maybe for a little bit, maybe especially in the beginning, just before you do it. But once you start doing it and you take a leap into the void, you jump off that cliff, you take that leap of faith, everything becomes clearer. You're operating in a different space than the rest of the world. The rest of the world looks at you like you're crazy, I've noticed, and think you're nuts, and then usually try to bring you down or throw out their judgments, which just reveals their own crappy thinking about themselves, because they project their own fears and judgments and things onto you, which is great because you get to see how people really think. You get to see what they're really thinking, the people you know, the people around you, when you start to make changes. So anyway, the takeaway from this lesson today is to be a heretic. A heretic basically means be willing to take the risks that you know inside, the voice inside is telling you to take. Do the scary thing that you know you should be doing. Take that leap. George Bernard Shaw has this great quote, one of my favorite quotes, and he says, "All great truths begin as blasphemies." What does that mean? Anything great, new, exciting usually starts as a rejection of the status quo. That's blasphemy. You're breaking up the tradition, the existing belief, the existing idea. And everybody rejects it. But eventually it becomes accepted and adopted. And if it's truly revolutionary, groundbreaking, or if it's truth, if it makes sense, people will accept it. But at first they will fight it tooth and nail. So be a heretic, act in spite of the fear, and change the world. I'm Jason Hull with Open Potion, website design, DoorGrow for property management marketing, and Gather Kudos for feedback for your small business and your improving your reputation. I'm out.